Okay, real talk. Last month, I listed every single rupee I was wasting. Subscriptions, EMIs, memberships, premiums. Nearly 14,000 rupees vanishing every month. Not because I'm broke, but because inflation is eating my salary alive while I'm funding things that are now completely obsolete in 2026 India. That's 1,68,000 rupees a year, almost 17 lakh rupees over a decade, before we even talk about what that money could have compounded into. And the worst part, I thought I was being smart. Every single thing on that list, I genuinely believed I was making the right call. I'm Rohan, and I spend way too much time thinking about where India's money is actually going versus where people think it's going. If you're someone who works hard, earns decent money, and still feels like you're not getting ahead as fast as you should be, make sure to hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up if this helps you out. Because today, we're talking about 10 things in India that are genuinely, mathematically, no longer worth your money in 2026. Some of these will be obvious, some of them are going to make you a little uncomfortable, and at least two of them, I promise, are going to completely change how you think about spending. Let's get into it. Number 1. Cable TV and traditional DTH packages. Alright, let's start with the easy one. The one where half of you are nodding and half of you are about to come for me in the comments. Cable TV, DTH, the 500 to 800 rupees monthly bill that's been sitting in your home like a loyal but increasingly useless relative. Here's the thing. India lost 40 million pay TV households between 2018 and 2024. According to an EY and AIDCF joint report, pay TV homes have fallen from 151 million in 2018 to 111 million in 2024. And this number is projected to drop to somewhere between 71 and 81 million by 2030. The market is not declining, it is collapsing. Now, you might be thinking, Rohan, my family watches sports, we need it for cricket. Fair, but let's do the math honestly. A typical DTH package with sports costs you 700 rupees per month. That's 8,400 rupees per year. A Jio Hotstar Super Plan with full live IPL, ICC events, Premier League, roughly 149 rupees per month or 1,099 rupees for the full year. You're paying 1,099 rupees instead of 8,400 rupees for more content, earlier releases and on-demand access. The savings? Over 7,300 rupees a year. Per year. Just on point number 1, we're just getting started. Oh, and broadband. India now has nearly 100 crore broadband connections as of late 2025. The infrastructure excuse is gone. Number 2, endowment and money back insurance policies. Okay, this is where it gets really interesting and honestly a little infuriating. This is the one I have the most feelings about because this isn't a mild inefficiency. This is a genuine financial trap that has been sold to crores of Indian families under the banner of safety and blessings from elders. I'm talking about traditional LIC-style endowment plans, money-back policies, and whole life policies that combine insurance with savings. You know, the ones your neighbor uncle convinced your dad convinced you are now looking at your kid with suspicious intentions. Just kidding, kind of. Here's what most people don't realize. The average return on a traditional endowment policy in India is 4% to 5.5% per annum. That's before inflation. India's inflation has averaged around 3% in FY25 to 26, which means in real terms, you're getting returns of roughly 1.5 to 2.5% on a product you're holding for 20 to 25 years. That is barely above zero on a 25-year commitment. Let me make this concrete. Take Isha, a 24-year-old electrical engineer. She gets her first big appraisal and a well-meaning relative convinces her to put 1 lakh rupees a year into a 20-year endowment policy. At maturity, Isha receives roughly 30 to 35 lakh rupees. That sounds like a lot, right? That is 20 lakh rupees of her own premiums coming back with barely anything on top. Now compare. The same 1 lakh rupees per year invested in a simple Nifty 50 index fund with the index's historical average return of roughly 12% over 20-year periods would grow to roughly 70 to 75 lakh rupees. Even after paying capital gains tax on the equity returns, that is still a difference of over 30 lakh rupees on the exact same invested capital. LIC maturity is tax-free under Section 1010. The equity corpus isn't, but the gap is so large that even after the taxman takes his cut, the index fund mathematically destroys the endowment policy. The fix is simple. Separate your insurance and your investments. Buy a pure term plan, 1 crore rupees cover for a 30-year-old costs roughly 8,000 to 12,000 rupees per year. Invest the rest in index funds. This is called buy term, invest the rest. And this is the single most powerful financial decision most Indian households are not making. Number 3. Unnecessary credit card annual fees. Look, I'm not anti-credit card. Used well, credit cards are one of the best financial tools you have. Rewards, cashbacks, fraud protection, all real benefits. But here's the thing. A Perfios PwC India study based on over 30 lakh consumers found that Indians now use over 33% of their income just to service loan EMIs. Now layer on top of that annual credit card fees ranging from 500 to 5,000 rupees for cards that were sold on promises of airport lounge access and concierge services that honestly most of us use maybe once or twice a year, if at all. Do the math on your own card. Pull out your last statement, add up your actual rewards earned over 12 months, subtract the annual fee. If the number is not clearly positive, and for a huge number of people it isn't, downgrade or cancel. There are genuinely excellent zero-fee cards in 2026 India. HDFC Millennia, SBI Simply Click, Axis Ace all give solid rewards without the annual trap. Number 4. Premium coaching apps when free resources dominate. This one is going to upset some people whose marketing budgets fund a lot of content creators. I'm saying it anyway. India's edtech sector went through a near collapse between 2022 and 2024. Byju's famously imploded. Unacademy went through massive layoffs. The promise of 30,000 to 80,000 rupees annual subscriptions for premium coaching didn't survive contact with the reality that NPTEL has world-class engineering content free. Khan Academy is free. YouTube has subject matter experts teaching IIT JEE, CA exams, UPSC all for free, often better than paid content. I'm not saying never pay for education. A well-reviewed, outcomes-proven skill course, data science, financial modeling, a coding bootcamp can absolutely be worth it. But blindly renewing a 50,000 rupees per year generic test prep subscription because of FOMO, that is 2019 behavior in a 2026 world. Ask yourself, what specifically did I learn from this subscription that I couldn't have found freely? If the answer is not much, you have your answer. Number 5, active mutual funds with high expense ratios. Okay, this is the one that'll get pushback from my finance friends, so let me be precise here. I'm not saying all active funds are bad. I'm saying most people are unknowingly bleeding returns through expense ratios on active funds that consistently underperform their benchmark and they have no idea. India's mutual fund industry hit an AUM of over 70 lakh crore rupees in 2025. That is phenomenal. India is investing. That is genuinely brilliant. But here is what most people don't realize. A large cap active fund with a 1.5% to 2% expense ratio has to outperform its benchmark by that same amount every single year just to break even with an index fund. Multiple SPIVA India reports consistently show that roughly 70 to 80% of large cap active funds underperform the Nifty 50 over a 10-year period. A Nifty 50 index fund from PPFAS, UTI or Nippon India has an expense ratio of 0.10% to 0.20%. Think of an expense ratio like a mandatory toll booth on your investment highway. The higher the toll, the less fuel you have left to reach your financial destination. On 10,000 rupees SIP per month over 20 years, at 12% gross returns, you build roughly 99 lakh rupees. Add a 1.8% expense drag and you're compounding at 10.2% instead. Final corpus, around 78 lakh rupees. That difference is 21 to 25 lakh rupees. That is not a rounding error. That is a down payment on a flat or a child's entire college education. The action step? Log into CAMS or MF Central, check the expense ratio on every fund you own. If you're holding a regular plan through a distributor, consider switching to direct plans. Same fund, lower expense ratio, zero middleman. It takes 30 minutes. Number 6. Petrol or diesel cars in Tier 1 cities with metro access. Now this is the hot take. Come at me. I know. The car is pride, the car is freedom, the car is what your parents worked 30 years to give you and what every 28-year-old IT engineer in Bengaluru thinks they should own by now.
But in 2026, if you live in a city with metro access, Mumbai, Delhi, Bengaluru, Hyderabad, Chennai, Pune, Ahmedabad, and you're financing a petrol car on EMI, the actual cost is wild when you write it all out. EMI 18,000 to 22,000 rupees per month for a mid-segment car. Insurance 15,000 to 20,000 rupees per year. Fuel at current prices 8,000 to 12,000 rupees per month for a daily commuter. Parking in a metro 2,000 to 5,000 rupees per month. Maintenance 10,000 to 15,000 rupees per year. You're looking at 32,000 to 42,000 rupees per month, over 4 lakh rupees per year for a depreciating asset that loses 15 to 20% of its value in year 1 alone. Now, compare Metro plus Auto plus occasional Rapido or Ola for a Metro professional. Realistically, 5,000 to 8,000 rupees per month. The saved 30,000 plus rupees per month invested in index funds at 12% over 5 years becomes over 25 lakh rupees. I'm not saying never own a car. I'm saying be honest about whether you need it today or whether you're buying it because it is what you are supposed to do at this life stage. Number 7. Ultra premium branded clothing for daily wear. Okay, deep breath. I'm not here to shame anyone's spending. If you love fashion, if clothing brings you joy, that is completely valid, full stop. But I do want to point something out because the data is striking. According to the Perfuse PwC study, over 62% of all discretionary spending in India goes towards lifestyle purchases, fashion and personal care, and a huge chunk of that is premium branded clothing worn for everyday office and social situations. Here's the psychological trap. We buy premium branded clothing because we believe it signals status, competence and success, and that this will translate into real-world outcomes, promotions, respect, social approval. The research on this is pretty humbling. Past a certain basic threshold of looking professional, people do not remember what you wore. They remember how you made them feel, your communication, your confidence, your ideas. The practical move is a small, intentional wardrobe of good quality basics. Uniqlo, M&S, even well-chosen Indian brands like Fab India costs a fraction of rotating through Zara and Tommy Hilfiger drops and honestly looks better because you're not chasing every trend. Saved money here? Easy 2,000 to 5,000 rupees per month for most urban professionals. That is 24,000 to 60,000 rupees per year. Number 8. Multiple overlapping OTT subscriptions. Okay, wait, I know. I literally just told you to switch from DTH to OTT, and now I'm telling you your OTT spending is also a problem. I can feel you wanting to throw something at the screen. But hear me out, because this is about something called subscription creep. India now has 57 OTT platforms operating simultaneously. Netflix, Prime, Jio Hotstar, Sony Live, Z5, Mubi, Apple TV+, the list genuinely does not end. And most people I know, including myself at one point, are subscribed to 4 or 5 of them simultaneously. At an average of 199 to 499 rupees per platform per month, that is 800 to 2500 rupees per month, 9600 to 30,000 rupees per year to watch realistically 2 or 3 shows at any given time. The smarter play? Rotate. Watch everything you want on platform A over 2 months, cancel, move to platform B. You'll spend maybe 200 to 400 rupees per month total, and you'll actually finish what you started watching instead of opening Netflix, scrolling for 25 minutes, giving up and rewatching The Office again. We all do it, don't pretend.
Number 9. Gold jewelry as a financial investment. Okay, I want to be really careful here because this one touches culture and family tradition, and I respect that deeply. Gold in India is not just money, it's emotion, it's weddings, it's gifts, it's what grandmothers pass down. I understand all of that. But I need to separate gold as culture and sentimentality, which is completely valid, from gold jewelry as a financial investment strategy, which in 2026 has some very specific problems we need to talk about honestly. When you buy gold jewelry as a financial asset, here is what actually happens. You pay the spot price of gold. As of April 2026, that's approximately 15,300 rupees per gram for 24K. You pay making charges of 10 to 25%. You pay GST of 3%. On a 5 lakh rupee jewelry purchase, you've immediately paid 65,000 to 1,30,000 rupees in costs that you will never recover. Because when you sell, the jeweler pays you the spot price, not your making charge, not your GST back. Now yes, gold prices have done exceptionally well over the last 2 years. Nobody is denying that.
But if the goal is financial return on gold, there are dramatically better vehicles in 2026. Gold ETFs give you pure gold price exposure, zero making charges, zero storage risk, and you can buy or sell anytime on the stock exchange. They're the cleanest way to invest in gold for financial returns. The action step? Buy jewelry for joy and tradition, absolutely. But if someone tells you buy jewelry as investment, please gently do the math first. Use gold ETFs or digital gold instead. They track the spot price with zero making charges and no storage headache. Number 10. Keeping long-term wealth in fixed deposits. I've saved this one for last because it is arguably the most widespread financial mistake in India, cutting across every generation, every city, every income level. And it is the most counterintuitive one because the thing I'm describing as a mistake is literally called a safe investment. Fixed deposits. Before you close the video, let me finish. I'm not saying FDs are evil. I'm not even saying never use them. Short-term liquidity in FDs, 3 to 12 months of expenses as an emergency fund, that is completely smart. But here's what most people don't realize. Keeping long-term wealth, 5, 10, 20-year money in FDs is not safe. It is slowly bleeding. Here's why. The best FD rates in India in early 2026 are around 7.0 to 7.5% per annum. India's CPI inflation is running at around 3% in FY 25-26. Your real return is roughly 4% to 4.5% before tax. And FD interest is taxed at your income slab. If you're in the 30% bracket, your 7% FD becomes 4.9% post-tax. After inflation, you're netting real returns of somewhere between 1.5% and 2%. Now I know, that sounds fine on paper, but this is where it gets really interesting. 10 lakh rupees in an FD at 7.5% becomes about 42 lakh rupees before tax, but after 30% income tax on the interest, you're looking at closer to 32 lakh rupees of actual spending power. The Nifty 50 index at its historical 12% average over 20 years, that same 10 lakh rupees becomes 96.5 lakh rupees. Even after LTCG tax, you're clearing 88 lakh rupees. That is a difference of over 55 lakh rupees on just 10 lakh rupees invested over 20 years. Now I understand why we default to FDs. It's deeply psychological. The number always goes up. You never see a red day. There is something deeply comforting about seeing 10 lakh rupees become 10.7 lakh rupees, even if 10 lakh rupees today buys what 9.7 lakh rupees bought last year. The comfort of certainty is real, and it is something equity markets genuinely cannot replicate. But the cost of that comfort over 20 years is enormous. The fix is not dump everything into stocks tomorrow, it is a simple, boring, disciplined asset allocation. Emergency fund in FD or liquid funds, 6 months of expenses, short-term goals in debt funds and short-duration FDs, long-term wealth 5 years plus in a diversified portfolio of Nifty 50 index funds, some mid-cap exposure and a small gold allocation as a hedge. That's it. Boring, not glamorous, extremely effective. So, here's the summary. 10 things. Let me run through them fast. 1. Cable TV and DTH. Switch to Jio Hotstar or selective OTT. Save 7,300 rupees a year immediately. 2. Endowment insurance. Buy term, invest the rest. The gap is over 30 lakh rupees over 20 years. 3. High-fee credit cards you're not maximizing. Downgrade. 4. Overpriced edtech subscriptions when free resources dominate. Audit and cut. 5. Active mutual funds with high expense ratios eating 21 to 25 lakh rupees of your corpus silently. Check CAMs, switch to direct or index. 6. A petrol car on EMI in a metro city, do the full cost math first. 7. Premium branded daily wear as a status signal, build a thoughtful wardrobe instead. 8. 5 simultaneous OTT subscriptions you're not watching, rotate. 9. Gold jewelry as a financial instrument, use gold ETFs or digital gold instead. And 10, your entire long-term wealth sitting in FDs earning 1.5% real returns. Asset allocate intelligently. Here's the thing. I'm not asking you to live like a minimalist monk or never enjoy your money. I genuinely believe in spending joyfully on the things that matter. What I'm asking is this. Take 1 hour this weekend, pull up your bank statements, your subscriptions, your policy documents, run the actual numbers. Because India in 2026 is a country with extraordinary investment options, extraordinary earning potential, and a financial market growing at 7+% GDP. The tools are there. The question is whether you are using them or whether you are letting 17 lakh rupees of decade compounding potential slip quietly away on habits you never chose deliberately. You've got this. Go make the changes. Drop in the comments which one of these surprised you the most. I read every single comment. Hit that subscribe button for more videos like this every week. I'll see you in the next one.